sure we're in New York State's good graces. Yeah, that may not be enough. We'll do our best. So good morning. Tuesday, October 1st, REMAC. I hope everyone had a good summer. We're going to start off by doing something a little different. If I'd ask all to rise, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. I would like a motion for approval of the minutes or any changes if there are. Motion. Thank you. Second? Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Okay, minutes are accepted. Standing reports. Program Agency Coordinator.
So, just got in the mail yesterday the new DOH CME program booklet for the recertification of the providers. This will be going into effect on January 1, with a grace period of January 1 through the end of June, where the agencies can utilize both the old program and new program for recertification. Because there's a little bit of differences in the hours required and the topics required. This is supposed to be going up on the state's website within the next several days, if it's not there already. We have our conference coming up in February. I have one remaining slot. I'd like to try to solicit from the REMAC docs, see if there's somebody that might be willing and able to perform a lecture for us on whatever topic they feel that might be most important. I've already got Dr. Davidoff is going to do a lecture, and Dr. Surratt is going to do a lecture for us. Just looking for one additional person to help fill that slot. So if anybody has any interest, please just get in touch with me. And then that's all I have right now for report-wise. I've got some new extra items.
All right, thank you. FLCC Administrator.
Our REMAC program is still in progress. We're actually sending out applications for the new program to start in January 2020 situation. So everything seems to be doing good. We lost a couple at the end of August that did not go on to the next piece of the program due to academics. Spring classes are done. Obviously, summer is over. Our fall classes are up and running. We're already working with spring, what we're going to be offering in the spring classes. Some of that was kind of on hold to find out what was going to happen with the CME program and stuff like that as far as any changes that need to be made to curriculum along that side. So, we're moving along.
There you go. So the reason why we changed the date, obviously, was some of us took our semi-annual trek to Troy, for Stadium S meetings, and they were entertaining and interesting. Much of what was discussed at CMAC's meeting pertained to New York City and changes to their HAZTEC protocols. They changed some of the dose of medications. They added eye irrigation with calcium gluconate to their BLS protocols. There were some language changes in treatment of tension pneumothorax. Most of that, again, to their special teams. They had their rescue medic protocols were updated and had some interesting procedures really meant to be for the medic or physicians on scene with the medics assisting them. And we might be able to get a copy of those at some point to send out because they were kind of interesting. Maimonides Medical Center came up with a demonstration project, which I was very, very interested in, and I'd like to see if we can tag along with them, utilizing nebulized ketamine for pain management. Obviously, a drug we've been using for a long time, just being given in a different device. It's a breath-actuated nebulizer, so there's no continuous exposure to the crews, although actually I would love to see ketamine levels drawn on crew members just to see if the breath actuated device really works, but I'm not sure that's going to be done. So that was approved, and it's going to go to the commissioner for signature. New York City is working on their unified protocols, which are similar to the protocols that we have used, the collaborative protocols, but they still do not want to join in on the collaborative protocols. They are the only REMAC left in the state that is not using collaborative protocols. There was considerable discussion and considerable comments made that the CMAC was not in favor of that happening. However, they want to go back to the REMAC in New York City and still pursue that. So there'll be much more to follow on that. That was pretty much it at CMAC. There was discussion about the AEMT level providers, and New York State had added intubation and a few other things to the AEMT level, which we worked very hard on, but they now want to go back to the national standards, which would take away endotracheal intubation, which was voted and approved, much to my dismay. They will continue to be allowed to do supraglottic airways, and there will be a separate session to allow them to do end-tidal CO2 through the supraglottics, and that did pass. What else? Actually, the rest really comes down to SEMSCO, and I'll let Jason. Hi. I'll let Jason, we'll talk about that in a little bit, okay? I'll let you do a SEMSCO report. How's that sound?
Sure. Everything that was approved at CMAC was approved at SEMSCO. There was some CON action that took place that has nothing to do with this region, so I'll keep that out of the report. We tabled a motion from State Training Net to remove the BLS written exam and BLS practical skills exam for paramedic certification. It's mandatory that while you're in the paramedic program until you test, you will hold a valid EMT card. And to streamline the process and cut down costs, there was a proposal made to remove the BLS testing and the practical skills and written exam level for the paramedic certification. It's always been, if you did pass the ALS portion, you still get the EMT card. Current regulation does allow, if you fail a higher level certification, that you can then take a lower level certification exam. The question historically has been, oh, they're going to have to wait 6 weeks to a month to 2 months to take that exam. The other change that is happening is starting in November now, the computer-based testing.
Correct. Would be CLI, CIC
Right.
testing.
They're starting exams for CLI and CICs with computer-based testing, very similar to the process you utilize to take an NCLEX or an NCLEX. Secure location, schedule it on your own, 6 days a week, 29 locations across the state. So as soon as you find out that you didn't do as well as you should have on the paramedic test, you schedule your computer-based testing, which will roll out for all levels the first of the year. And you have a card as soon as you leave there in temporary certification. So when that has taken away with on-site, that's added back with computer-based testing, and on-site will be getting phased out. So you'll still have your traditional written exams on the third Thursday of every month, but also be optional computer-based testing as well. That was tabled. That was not voted on. The removal of the EMT stuff to paramedic. Computer-based testing is happening. Anybody else wants more information from SEMSCO? I have like 16 pages of questions.
What's some of the details?
Some of it I can't discuss.
We were thrown out.
We did go into executive session with SEMSCO for the first time that I would go into that. Obviously, can't discuss what happened there. Apparently, SEMSCO does go into executive.
Yes, sir.
Is there any discussion on the blood transfusion services?
Yes, there was some discussion, not a lot, and they're continuing to work on that. Without any specifics, because they didn't mention any specifics, apparently there has been more cooperation from Wadsworth.
Okay.
Well, I think the two nurses that represented Wadsworth when they first broke the news realized that their lives were at risk. Literally. So I think there's been some changes. So I think that's going to ease up a little bit. I'm assuming that most of the ALS advanced services in our region have applied, or in the process of applying, become ambulance transfusion services.
My understanding, though, they're not accepting any of them until they put out their new policy.
Right, there's
and I've been
nothing
pinging it by
available.
email
Yeah.
3 times with no response.
There's nothing on the, as far as the application is on the
There
website
is
that's
nothing
forthcoming.
happening.
I have the old application.
Everyone understands that we can transport patients with blood products running by paramedics. The blood bank has to accept that and has to submit notification to Wadsworth that it's occurred and why it's occurred. But everyone does understand that.
My system wants to see it in writing before they will switch our policy. So,
There is, the form is on the website. I couldn't tell you exactly where, but I've been told it's up on the website that says you can transport blood products, but they want to be notified when that's happening. The blood bank has to complete that form. Am I correct?
As far as I know, it's Wadsworth. It's a foreign country.
The country of
Can you
Wadsworth.
help redirect me where you think that form might be? We can talk after.
I'll do afterwards. We'll do a search because I have not seen it myself, but I was advised that it's there, and I've transported blood a couple of times with the blood bank in agreement, and whether or not they fill out the form or not, I don't know. It's a blood banking
No,
thing.
it's the blood bank degree, so.
All right, sir. Good.
Yeah.
All right. As per the request of New York State, there was one suspension of, I'm assuming, a paramedic, Jonah Yoon, who lives in Plainview, New York. It says EMT number. I don't know what level is that actually. And this is suspension for 1 year, effective 5/31/19. The suspension is stayed. It's on probation for 3 years, effective the same date. Civil penalty of $2,000, of which $1,000 is stayed. And this was for Part 800.16.A11, which sounds like it's violence in the public employment area. So I'm not sure what he did or threatened to do, but whatever it was, I guess he's still at work because he's suspension stayed. All right. We met for a half hour this morning at the QA committee, and we had some really nice discussions, primarily about how to proceed with the QA committee. And we decided that we were going to come up with a way of soliciting members to that committee so we would have a set membership group and hopefully be able to obtain enough members each time the QA committee was required to meet. We also want to go back to the system of having agencies present the QA program here to the REMAC so that we can continue to keep them involved, and also come up with a format so that we know, in fact, they are performing some QA reviews and charts. Right now, we're just kind of hoping that's happening. So we're going to be working on that over the next few months. Hopefully we can improve on that process. All right. Let's see. RSA committee.
Yes, thank you. So I got a couple things I want to discuss. First of all, we met in July. Thanks to everybody who came. We are going to be meeting quarterly, pretty much at the first month after the end of the quarter. So, for example, the third quarter ends in September, we're going to meet in October, so on and so forth. The first item for discussion is we had a new agency consideration. It's Hyundai Richmond Ambulance. Their ALS chief came to present. They are currently a staff lease organization, staff leased by an agency outside of our region. 9 providers, low to moderate call volume. We're not sure about the percentage of ALS calls. I'm assuming it's probably greater than 50%, but I don't know that off the top of my head. They had 4 requests for RSI that were all unanswered due to no available RSI units. I'm not sure that was Monroe County Melrems that didn't answer the call or us, because I do not know of any requests for RSI for Ontario County that I heard. And they have 1 provider already credentialed in Finger Lakes for RSI, and then multiple providers credentialed in Melrems. After the presentation, the committee discussed the biggest concern we have is that, are we credentialing the agency or are we credentialing the staff leasing agency? They do not have any. They have maybe 1 or 2 providers that are not through the staff lease agency. There's only one credentialed RSI provider. Currently, we do not have a provision for reciprocity for other regions' providers. I was expecting the discussion on that, so I brought Melrem's is. Only the staffing agencies providers would be credentialed. We asked numerous times whether the individuals that practice for Honeywell Richmond that are not affiliated with the staff leasing agency would be considered RSI, and the one person that was eligible said no. Also the big concern is about, we're talking about QA. The staff leasing was responsible for all the agency QA, not just the staff lease providers, but all the agency providers in the ALS level. We had concerns about would the staff lease agency properly notify us, this region, if there are issues. And there's also concerns about a low call volume. So after discussion, we had a lengthy discussion. The committee would like me to make a recommendation to REMAC that we do not grant Honeywell Richmond RSI agency status. And we'd like to have a discussion with the doctors about that.
Is there anyone here representing Honeywell Richmond?
No, Bruce isn't here.
So, anyone have any discussion on this?
I don't think Richmond comes to the ALS meetings either.
We'll get to that.
They don't. Is that correct? Okay. So any other discussion? So you guys are bringing that sort of as a recommendation to this group.
It's a committee motion, yes.
Committee motion that was approved or seconded at,
Seconded and passed unanimously.
okay, so it needs a vote.
Currently, the bylaws allow only physicians to make motions.
Well, it's a committee recommendation, so.
What about a committee?
The committee can recommend to the chair, and then ask for a motion.
He's right there.
I'm the physician sitting on that committee, so I will make the motion on behalf of the committee. But I believe a committee motion does not require a second. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So I'll make the motion on behalf of the committee that Richmond is not given RSI agency status as a committee motion.
Okay, perfect. Any further discussion on that? In that case, we need a vote of the REMAC physicians. All in favor of supporting the committee's recommendation, which would be not to allow Honeywell Richmond to do RSI. I need a hand. 3. All opposed, and 1 abstention. Okay, so your motion is carried. Thank you guys for that discussion, because I'm assuming it was pretty lengthy.
Yes, it was.
And obviously, if if Honeywell Richmond wanted to have any further discussion, they could certainly try to come up with more information and bring it back to the committee.
It's also funny you mentioned that. Honeywell Falls Ambulance, which is a provider in our region, is now RSI in Melrem's.
Yes.
At our October meeting, we're going to be discussing that. I know that there's been some issues with Melrem's with having Finger Lakes agencies responding into Melrem's and doing RSIs. I know that I've been spoken to, and I know that Matson and Town has been spoken to.
I thought we were past that.
I thought we were too, but it wasn't you can't do it, but I know that the one instance that we were involved in, that the agency that called us for RSI got spoken to pretty heavily about waiting for me to get there. And I've had an offline discussion with the medical director of Melrem's, and there's no real reason that if we're the only RSI providers up, or Massachusetts Town or Wayne County, or somebody that borders that region, and they call for RSI, it's a skill we have. We're operating under our region and our protocols. I don't see an issue. My only concern is that now what's going to happen, because we are going to use Honeywell Falls as a resource.
Sure.
So is there going to be issues with them responding to us, reciprocal? That's what we have to discuss in our meeting. I do have the Melrem's RSI program, which I'm also going to discuss at the meeting in October about some things.
So did Melrose have a concern because there was delay in patient transport? Or
There was never a formal anything. It was just a offline discussion, and yes, they delayed patient care to wait for RSI.
I have concerns with delay of patient care.
Yes.
And I would be concerned if one of our agencies was waiting for someone to come out of Melrose, but I have no concern with a Melrose RSI agency coming to assist.
And I don't believe it's us, our assigned people. I believe it's them waiting for us.
That goes back to the
Yeah.
basic tenets of EMS, don't delay care.
I think there's a few issues, and it's just the interboundary issues. If you're an agency that's based in Finger Lakes and then you go into Milrams to do some intervention or whatever, then you practice under the Finger Lakes protocols.
Yes.
And it's the same way if you're a Milrams agency, you practice under the Milrams protocols, even if you're in the Finger Lakes region. The issue comes with agencies that have footprints in both regions. So, an example that we have in Union Hill, they are a Milrams-based agency, but they have a CON for part of Wayne County as well. And they've kind of had to decide we're going to be part of the Milrams system. It's a little bit shakier when they cross boundaries, because then there's been a history of trying to decide which protocols you're going to practice under.
Which is
on
not
where
a
they
problem
come.
any longer.
Right.
So with the collaborative protocols, those issues are gone. It really comes down to delay.
Well, then it
And there
comes
should
down
not be a
to
delay.
agencies being credentialed. So as an agency that's credentialed in Monroe County, but has a footprint in Wayne County, or whichever county, automatically credentialed in both. And that's where
There's no need to, because if they're credentialed in Monroe Livingston, they come into Finger Lakes, they
have to
follow
practice under the
they,
Monroe
yeah.
County.
And if they don't perform the RSI and a patient needs it, then they're going to be held to task for that. So I don't think we need to be worried about credentialing those agencies. But you did bring up an interesting topic, and that's the RSI providers. So if someone takes a Melrem's RSI course, do we accept them into Finger Lakes?
Currently, the answer is no. And that's what we're going to discuss.
And what about vice versa?
Well,
Because I was
until
led to believe that they were accepting our.
they were, then they weren't, and now, according to this document from 2019, they are. But you have to.
It's case by case.
It's case by case. You have to submit a letter of intent, a letter of recommendation, and then you have to pay a fee to take a test.
And we've had that system
Yeah.
here as well. So
No, it's not just accepting; you have to take a test.
Right, we haven't charged a fee, and we have taken those
We're getting to
providers
that.
because
We're getting to that,
we know the education,
right?
we know who's providing the education in
And
Melrose, and we've
if
had no problem with
so,
that.
let's use me as an example. I've already done it the old way, but let's say the new way. So if I want to be RSI in Melrose, I have to submit a letter of intent, a letter of recommendation from the agency medical director, well, the ALS chief, but that's myself. It gets reviewed. If it's approved, then I have to pay $50 to take the skills test. If it is not approved, I'm granted into the Melrose RSI class. I take the entire class, the skills, the didactic, the written test, plus pay $150 fee. Before, it was an individual case-by-case basis with the one-on-one didactic and oral board session with the regional medical director.
Where's that money going?
It goes into a pool that is used for RSI. Get into that too.
RSI,
Training, RSI education, and also an RSI reimbursement program for the physicians that are involved. I believe also for the providers that also assist, but I don't know if that's nothing that we want to do. We'll get to
and
that.
is that legitimate?
Yeah, it pays for the training.
Yeah.
There's no other funding
Who,
source.
who's keeping track of the money, who's doling it out?
Not my issue.
So since we're talking about that, I want to jump into the 2019 RSI class, and the biggest issue is compensation for the doctors that are doing the training. We sent out we're still into October, and we have not had a scheduled RSI class. And one of the big concerns is compensation, not only compensation for the doctors, but also for training, for lab costs and training costs. We had a lengthy discussion about this as well, and the committee has recommended that we create a yearly fee for RSI agencies of $100. This is a yearly, every January 1st, if you want to continue to be an RSI agency in this region, $100. Anytime somebody when we have new classes, it's a fee of $50 per student to be enrolled in the RSI class.
No, we paid for by the
It's
agency.
going to be paid for by the agency, correct? initial certification, so let's say Honey Richmond wants to apply again, we're recommending a one-time non-refundable $250 application. We recommend that this money goes to a dedicated account facilitated by the REMAC or by the program agency. This money is solely for RSI training and expenses, including cadaver labs, medical director or doctor compensation. We're losing interest in this class because of we've been taking so long, and the committee totally understands that if there's not a compensation, that this is not a priority, and we won't expect it to be a priority without some sort of compensation. But the time is now. We need today to make a date for this class. Otherwise, we're going to continue to lose providers who are interested. And I don't want to waste Dr. Surratt's time, your time, the committee's time, if you're not going to be properly compensated for your time.
I'm not worried so much about being compensated for my time, but actually my biggest concern is who is going to handle the money. The REMAC doesn't have the ability to handle any funds. We have no funds. I'm not sure the program agency could technically handle that money or not.
I mean, we could certainly have to look into the logistics of that first. QuickBooks, you could simply divide out an account and make a running tally. At least it's a recorded source of where the monies are being distributed to.
I'm not even, I have to admit I'm naive when it comes to what the program agency, what type of entity it is. Is it a non-for-profit? Is it for-profit? Is it not have any designation?
Well, it's not, it's part of the council, so it's not.
And I'm not sure the non-for-profit can accept money from a source like that.
It's no different than doing AHA courses, yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing, same principle.
I have it on a higher authority.
I don't know about that, but
So we'd have to figure out the logistics, but I guess we can work that
I believe
out.
it's just the line item on a budget.
So would Dr. Surratt like to bring that forth as a motion?
Support
Remind him what he's
whatever
talking about.
motion they just made.
So the committee's motion that Dr. Surratt will be making is that the RSI committee, in conjunction, makes a fee schedule for the initial and continuing certification and participation in the RSI program, with the money being solely dedicated for the RSI program in terms of compensation and training, etc.
So it would be a $250 application fee, non-refundable for any agency applying.
Correct.
It'd be $100 every year per agency or per RSI agency to go into that fund.
Correct.
And any new students would be $50.
Correct.
Again, non-refundable.
Correct.
Any other fees?
Nope.
You're going to backdate all the people that are already members? They don't have to pay the
Nope.
fee?
This is nope. So the only agency would be just a $100 fee, and then this should be for new providers.
The $250 is for any new agency.
Moving forward, correct.
An application,
Application fee
and if they're accepted, they still pay the $100.
The next year.
the next year.
Discussion? Well, I'm sorry, that's a motion. We did second. Second. All right. Discussion.
I'd support it. I mean,
You made the motion.
But I'll tell you why. Because Mike's done a really good job of summarizing it. But the truth is that the RSI program was launched when the two of us sat down and said, we need to get this thing launched. And we put a lot of sweat equity into that. We're both very much busier than we were 5 years ago. And I mean, and you both know that there was thousands of hours went into forming that course and teaching that course, and we've been doing it essentially as a hobby for the last 5-10 years now. So I support it just because the reality is we're short in resources, and there's no hesitation for private education to charge people anymore. You know, if you want to research your card, you pay. If you want to do a CME course, you pay. I mean, it's moved beyond an active goodwill now, and it's just hard to schedule 5 positions and give paramedics one-on-one time with them so that we can maintain the standards. So, and I'll tell you that Richmond application, $250 for, we spent a lot of time on that. It was not an insignificant amount of my time and also the members of the committee.
Why not?
And then we still have to deal with blowback down the line from it as well. So I think it's very reasonable. I think it's cheap.
So,
Yeah, I know.
one question I just want to bring up. The reality, I guess, is that going to be enough of a budget? Is that with what you're collecting from your students and 6 agencies?
No, so there's,
That was going to be my question as well. What happens, is it any kind of cadaver lab is going to cost you your entire account?
Pretty much. Unless we
And
get
then there's no
volunteers.
reimbursement for physicians. I don't see those dollar amounts are going to support that. Are the agencies going to kick in additional funds for lab fees?
so 2 things. So number 1, if we did it the way it is right now, we would get $1,200 for just the students for this RSI class. What we could do is, depending on the size of the agency, I mean, $50, if we did 100 agency, a yearly fee and a fee for each provider, I mean, would it be better
Yearly
to,
fee for each
would it be, instead of doing like an agency fee, like a yearly fee, like $25 or $50 for each provider?
You're not going to be able to keep track of providers.
Oh, I have a list.
Yeah, then nobody's going to want to pay for the.
Yeah.
They're going to want to ride through any other
Yeah.
agency they work for.
He works so many hours at this
Then I'll
agency
just keep-
versus how many at us.
Yeah.
We can.
I'd stick to the
If you
agency
want,
fee.
if you'd like me to, if you'd like the fee for agencies, a yearly fee to increase, I don't have a problem with that either. It's just a ballpark number. I don't have a problem saying 200, 250.
How many agencies are we considering our site currently?
There is Victor Farmington, Canandaigua, Finger Lakes, Newark, Macedon Town, Wayne County ALS, North Seneca, and Yates County. So that is 8.
Mercy Flag?
We don't. We have.
really, okay.
Yeah. So we could include Mercy, but I think it's. I think
I
your
was
method
gonna
is
say
different.
no.
But then where do you draw the line? Then you got to go to LifeNet.
Right.
And throw LifeNet in.
Right. That's why I would say. That's why it was just ground based. But that's 8.
$800.
My recommendation would be to also add an additional lab fee per student. I mean, because that's not going to be enough to sustain your program by just your charge.
So if you run a lab and you charge an additional lab fee,
Yes.
that way, because now it's based on your attendance.
Because your lab fee can be adjusted to cover your cost of securing that lab as well.
There's 2 reasons that agencies become RSI agencies. One is to provide care to their patients, and the other is to expand their services to offer to other agencies as well, which is a profit-generating activity for that agency. So there is that's just the reality that you're going to get more. If you're an RSI agency, you're going to get more calls, and in order to make money in EMS, you have to have calls.
If we can utilize this so that we could provide better labs and better training for our RSI techs, I would personally be all in favor, and I would hope that would pass. But what you're presenting right now, what your motion presents right now, you're going to have a few dollars to give to the docs that teach, but you're not going to get much more out of it. But if you can increase the rates and be able to afford some true training equipment, maybe a cadaver lab, now maybe we're getting some. Sir.
Just, and it's more procedural with a $250 application, non-refundable fee. Is that application process? Is there a checklist? Are there specific items in that application process that are consistent across the board?
That is correct.
Because if it can be viewed as arbitrary in any way, somebody's going to eat you alive if you tell them no after they gave you $250 that they get it back.
No, we have a
We had
checklist.
a pretty good list of criteria that they had to meet before they would be considered.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, the group. has
And my
done a good job of that.
recommendation then is that when you tell somebody no, a very specific, identified list of reasons why. What criteria they did not meet.
And maybe that list should be discussed at the next meeting, just to define it a little bit better.
Yeah, I would have brought it, I'm sorry.
That's okay, so we still have this motion.
So I'd like to amend it, or have Dr. Surratt amend it,
Support the amendment.
and say, to maybe change the yearly fee to $250, and then institute a lab fee for any training associated with the RSI class.
Maybe just more constructive rather than just doing these things off the like audibly over the so just to submit a fee schedule in writing to the REMAC. We could always go out to the REMAC physicians for a vote electronically.
We're also going to meet again November 19th.
Pardon? Yeah.
Do we have any idea when this next class might start?
I was hoping that it starts as soon as possible.
Yeah, I have scheduling due to November now. I've just got November scheduled.
Testing the current class.
Yes.
So do we need this in place before that starts? Which sounds like it would be beneficial. There's still a motion on the table with an amendment. We need to second the amendment. Second on the
I'll
amendment.
second the amendment.
All right. Any further discussion? So the motion as it stands with the amendment is that there would be a initial fee application, $250, non-refundable. There would be a $250 per agency per year to cover some of the expenses. There would be a $50 per student fee
For new
per
providers.
class for new providers, non-refundable. And that if there was a lab involved, it would be split between the agencies providing providing the students.
No.
Providing students.
No, it's going to be, you got to have something per student, whoever goes irregardless. Because we went through this the last time when we did this cadaver lab at the chiropractic college. Agencies refused to pay because we didn't send anybody.
That's why I said per student, but
So
Per
it should be
student
per
attendance.
student,
Okay.
irregardless of where they're from, because then we get out of that grousing.
So per student
per student.
attendant.
And is that going to be a set fee or determined on whatever?
Determined.
I'd say you got to determine it based on what your cost is.
Right. Determined.
Any further discussion? We'll vote. All in favor? Position of REMAC member? All opposed? Okay. I think that will help bump up the level of RSI. Do you want to discuss RSI techs trained in other regions?
I can.
Do you have anything you would like this group to
I would
possibly vote on?
I would like to wait until November because we have our meeting on October 31st, and I'd like to discuss it there with the committee first.
Do you think maybe you and I should have a talk with someone from Melrose? Possibly their medical board?
I don't know if I want to be in the room.
Jack, I already have a
Yeah,
meeting
John's-
scheduled with him at the end of October.
Really?
Yes.
Thanks for letting me know. All right, then, let's move on.
I only have one. I have only one other thing.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want to schedule a date now, or you want to wait
Testing in the current
for testing the current class?
Let's do that side REMAC.
Okay. The only other thing I have is just is then the agency. So participation on the RSI committee, just as participation in the ALS committee, is considered mandatory. Part of being the RSI agency is participating in labs and training, not just providing students, but providing guidance and proctoring. So the committee met about that at length. And participation in facilitating the RSI class, any RSI class, is mandatory for all RSI agencies. And each agency is required to have a minimum of one provider assisting in any class. Also for this year, and I don't know if it's going to be for continuous years, but Wayne County will be facilitating a written test for the RSI class. So there'll be a didactic and a practical portion. Moving forward, we meet quarterly, not every month. So therefore, participation is also mandatory. So the committee decided that the H agency needs to attend a minimum of 2 RSI agencies. If the agency chief, if the agency chief's not available, any senior RSI provider can act as a representative. Agencies that fail to meet the participation will be discussed at the committee and will be brought to this body for further discussion. And that's it.
I think that promotes a region-wide cooperative process. Very much in favor of that. Do you want that again as a motion, or do we need to?
You can have that a motion.
It can be circulated to the agencies, though.
I think
So,
we can
I have
add
it.
into the RSI package that,
Yep.
that we have. We'll just add it in.
Okay.
Excellent. Guys, really good work. Thank you
Thank you.
again. Anything else?
I'm done.
I cut you short before. Thank you. Advanced practice.
Advanced practice committee met last month. Attendance still remains an issue. One of the reasons we have identified as an issue is there's not a whole lot for us to do. We've done a lot of good work with the protocols and everything else. However, we don't really have a lot of big projects. Discussing SAT work that only involves a couple agencies out of the collective of the agencies in the entire region. One thing we don't have is a position assigned to the advanced practice committee, which would be great to have maybe that position attend a meeting or two. Currently, we meet every other month. We'd like to move that to a quarterly meeting, similar to the meeting schedule of the RSI and RSA committee. One thing that was some old business in the ALS committee was OG2 placement training, which Dr. David and I spent a weekday morning up in Rochester, and we completed a video demonstration training module that's hosted on emsfunline.com, which is it's an open course, it's free, you don't need to pay for it, on placement of OG2 communications, communications with a knowledge exam, and it will take about half an hour.
Not even that.
Which would be the initial training for providers to place OG2s on the training officers who have to verify your practical skills. That is up, and really that's the only committee work we have to move forward to the REMAC. The other conversations that we had were kind of addressed already. Our biggest question was QA and the rebirth of the QA committee doing what you guys already said you're doing. So maybe no need for discussion on that. I guess bringing to you the recommendation that we REMAC to go out and training
So again, looking for a motion, which I guess I can make a motion that this group approved that training module. We believe it's got everything that these folks need. But we'll still need, obviously, work at the individual agencies. So I'll bring that as a motion.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Physicians voting in favor. Anyone opposed? I'm sure there's nothing.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah, that's important. Okay. So what do you think this group could do to help with attendance?
Give us something to do.
Can everyone, does anyone have anything currently they'd like to recommend? If not, we could certainly accept recommendations down the road.
A lot of stuff.
You have.
Like,
You have.
what now?
Why don't you meet in tandem with the RSI committee and then your advanced practices, which is also RSI?
So the issue would then be, why do I have to come to this meeting if I'm not an RSI agency? We tried that.
Okay.
We've tried it, yeah.
RSI would suck up most of the discussion.
Because their system with RSI, they're determining when to try and call for RSI. Well, what's the reason for that one?
I would agree, but like Mike just said, RSI suck up most of it, and beat most of the, who are we going to approve, who are we going to approve.
Could you guys maybe start off together and then?
We are still doing, we are in November, we improve the educational models for 2020, which will be in 2019. But, there's been discussion of pilot projects throughout the state for superfly airways for BLS providers, respiratory cardiac arrest. Maybe that's something that the committee takes on as a task to look at some of the regions throughout the state.
Our biggest problem is we just don't have access to
Part of the remote.
Remotes will include and no one include not. But
The other issue that just popped into my head because I looked at Kenny and you reminded me of it earlier is with the new BLS protocols released statewide. Previously, the region did not want to allow BLS providers in New York State, in this region, to perform the rehabilitation. Is that still the same? So we that still by the protocol? Is that position?
it's in the collaborative protocols. And I don't believe we voted anything different. Anyone want to talk about that?
So there is a nicely done training video by folks in the Remo region.
That wasn't Chris's?
It was.
I actually went through it the other night, and it's pretty nicely put together, very informational. There's a knowledge base test at the end of it, and I think with that, you go through, try to highlight and tell them it's specifically when it should be done, when it shouldn't be. Review some other knee injuries that it could possibly be, rather than just a dislocation. So I would support that module. There's also a link, so if somebody does perform the skill, it's being hosted on the U of R website right now to track a study for that procedure. So we can make that link available on the website so we can go on and provide that information source.
Anyone want to add a comment?
I think that the collaborative protocols are collaborative. We should support them. Just keep them consistent. It's much easier to bring people into the area and employ them if we're all on the same page. So I would just support adding it back in pending appropriate training.
Even at the ALS level, how much, from an agency standpoint, how much education? I've had two cases, one in Yates and then one in Ontario County recently, both ALS with patella dislocations and young people. And the medics that I spoke with really had no awareness that they were.
I actually did one in February.
Yeah. I think the biggest concern you did, but collaboratively.
Yeah. I think
there's a lot of comfort.
I think to date there hasn't been a tracking mechanism in place. So, we don't know how many of them truly are being done.
I think the biggest concern for BLS and people like you is academic Jesus. But we all understand when it is going back, it's really not a machine. That's
correct
procedure.
Yeah, it's instant.
It's not really enforcing the procedure. It's not like you're really just positioning
That's
the leg
traction
and just
plan.
pulse back.
It happens on its own all by itself a lot of times.
Sometimes I just never
Well, that was sort of my experience has been when someone's had a patellar dislocation, that once they've been appropriately positioned on the gurney, the thing will spontaneously fall back in after direction and anything.
So since we never really voted to keep it out of our region, and it's in the collaborative and state BLS protocols, I think it's already there, and I don't think we need to do much other than we've had discussion and kind of keep promoting it amongst the individual agencies.
I would pass it along then because the class that Amanda stated when she was doing the collaborative update for all of us, it was mentioned that BLS was not allowed to do the tele industry. So if we're approving it, we need to send that out.
We did have some discussion early on, but I think Dr. Surratt words it quite well in that we're going to support the collaborative protocols.
No, but I think you need to put out something that says.
Well, and I think John's already writing the basics of that to be put out as a sort of REMAC advisory.
With training.
With training and the regional training as well as what's available online as well as within the agencies. And there's always, if there's any question or concern, just call medical control. That's always the fallback.
The other aspect, we're trying to move some of the stuff to the medical directors for the individual agencies, so you take responsibility for the providers. So you may want to just like slip in there that subject to approval by your medical director, your agency medical director.
You got that, John? Well, we're going to try and find this. Cool. We'll work on it. All right, moving along. Mercy Fight Central.
At our last meeting, we discussed our preparations for our CAMES accreditation for our site visit. We successfully completed that and have our CAMES accreditation for the next 3 years for all of our bases. Exciting.
Turns out you.
Just a couple of not like flyers over there on the table, but we have EMS all level course. We're going to have our CME next week, Thursday the 10th. Mine is supposed to air at Dorset. And we have our second annual open house and Autumn Fest on the 12th, which is Saturday next week. So here's just like a all ages family fun kind of event open to the community. Fire and police agencies there doing demonstrations. Fun for all. So thank you.
Very cool. We've got your standards of care when we're going to do business.
Yep.
LifeNet Guthrie.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone that participated in our conference that we had at the beginning of September. It was a sellout for both days. It was outstanding from everybody, and we hope to make this the annual event. It looks like it will continue to be that at this point. We also have the Concepts and Trauma Tours conference coming up down at Down, which is sponsored by Guthrie here. Multiple fire department house, complete classes, and improvisation classes. Awesome.
Thank you.
I'd like to add, I went to the LifeNet at the Delano, and the second day, which was Saturday, was all basically ALS for difficult airway and that. And it was an excellent program. And it's too bad that there were only 4 of this region that wanted to attend.
Sometimes in parallels. Any other agencies or committees that would like to speak?
As far as the training goes, there is a first Kimberly's area emergency medical services management conference at Delano November 9th and 10th. On Saturday all day and Sunday until noon with topics such as EMS budgeting to compliance, human resources 101, policy development, legal issues in EMS, all being taught by industry experts in those respective disciplines, attorneys, financial managers, financial planners. We've got Mark Torsten out of retirement for a couple of talks. It's a day, it's a weekend, rather, it's pretty full of some good stuff. If you haven't seen the flyers or have any information on it, please get hold of me. I'll make sure you have it. And more importantly, the gentleman sitting at the front of the table is the keynote speaker on Saturday.
You said they're going to be Eli. All right, old business physician credentialing. Johnny, you got a quick update for us?
Yep. So progress is slow. We do have some of the hospitals are receiving it very well. Others are still struggling a little bit. Newark is fortunate enough that most of your folks came from REMS, so they were pretty much all under REMS. I've got several of them that have registered in the system, but have not taken the exam yet. And then some, there's probably about 10 of them that haven't done anything yet. And we've sent this out multiple times. I'll share the list with the department heads, and maybe you can help prod some of your folks to move it along.
We're close.
Yeah.
We're very close.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think Newark is complete. Geneva's got 5, so not too terrible. And then Thompson's where the bulk of them are lacking. And probably the most heavily traveled hospital that we go to for this region. And Soldiers has just got a couple.
Can you just, if you send those again with that initial link?
Yep.
I'm sure the people that didn't do it don't have to do it.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, moving on to new business. There's, as you know, New York State has awards every year, various titles. There's several people at this meeting today that are award winners in the past, but there is a new award winner. Chris Sprawl, RN of FF Thompson, was awarded the New York State EMS RN of the Year. Congratulations. And truly, an EMS nurse. So, thank you. All right, we've already discussed the oriented training. Mercy Flight Central submitted new standards of care, which I think, my first opinion, were excellent. I'm hoping everyone got a chance to see them and at least review them. Looking for a motion to approve them. Second? Any discussion on those protocols? In that case, I will ask.
So, Jack, just the only comment that Aaron got back during this process was from upstate, who had no issues with it.
Oh, excellent.
With all the surrounding hospitals that we participate with, the majority of them.
They agreed with steroids this time.
I asked for either comments or at least receipt of, or acknowledgement of receipt, but I got comments from upstate, so I'll take that as no issues.
Very good. All right, in that case, all in favor of approving Mercy Flight standards of care? Anyone opposed? Off to the state in January.
Great.
Excellent, thank you. Do we have any public access defib applications?
Yes. There's a whole stack of them there because we didn't meet in July. So Reliant Community Credit Union has just updated their PAD application. Everything appears to be in order. Midland Asphalt out of Lyons has updated their pad. Saigon Container Manufacturing in Lyons' application is coming brand new to us. And that appears to be good with a, it's like a physician of Gary Elhart signing off on it. Wayne County Public Health updated their pad. The town of South Bristol has updated their pad program. Again, with the same physician as that last one, so it must be out in the market here. Being recommended by the defib manufacturers, probably, I guess. And then L3 Technologies in Victor also is updated. Theirs is a new original application. And have a signed collaborative, so that's all good too.
Okay. Do you have any further you want to add to the conference, or do we need to vote on anything for the conference?
For the conference, we don't need, well, we can vote on the topics. I can kind of pass them around real quick.
Or do you want, why don't we bring that back in November?
Well, I'd like to get everything posted for registration.
Oh, okay.
Sooner than we have in the years past. So I will pass this along. We can move on for now and pass it along. Have everyone take a look at it, see what their thoughts are, and go from there.
All right. Actually, the final new business topic that we have is discussion on adult versus pediatric BBM. And who submitted that?
So there was, at the ALS committee, actually, I believe there was a little bit of discussion because Melrems has done and playing around with the whole thought about pediatric BBM versus adult BBM, because invariably practitioners are overinflating the lungs, without having a secured airway, causing a bad result. So the theory was, do we switch to a smaller BBM to reduce the likelihood that you're going to get, the stomach distension like you would without having, proper airway in place or not. So I just put that on there as a topic of discussion and went with it however you may.
So the inadvertent hyperventilation syndrome, something that we see quite often with the adult bag. We felt we were hyperventilating patients, and there was a fair amount of discussion in the literature about going with pediatric bag, which seemed to make a lot of sense at the time. Except we found out that there were various sizes of pediatric bags, and they were using different size volume bags. They got to be a real issue. So it's probably a good idea that we discuss it here and come up with a regional decision as to what we think about this. Dr. Report.
The mask, the bag, or both?
Seems to be not the mask. It seems to be just the
I heard
forcefulness
some
of
grapevine too. They were talking about the mask as well. No?
So you're supposed to, if you're doing the pediatric, because I work in Melrose, when you're using the pediatric BBM, you're supposed to carry all 5 sizes of masks that you can fit in a patient. You're using the one BBM across the board. The other thing that we have instituted at my agency that I work out there is PEEP valves have to be used with it as well to provide better.
So the state has something to say, and I know what the state's going to say.
What you use in practice is one thing. What you carry on your vehicle, to be compliant with regulation, will remain another.
You
Keep that in mind.
adult BBM.
I've had to remind some folks of that. So before it gets to be an issue, let me just put that out there.
Whether we're using pediatric bags or not, you still have to have the adult bags part of
And all of the masks. 2 adult masks and 3 sizes for infant, toddler, and whatever.
It seemed when we first started discussing this, maybe even about a year ago, that it was a good fix for a common problem. But I'm thinking that maybe we need to go back and fix the problem in another way.
It doesn't fix the root cause of the problem, which is airway management is a skill that has to be learned. This is akin to, we're going to give you a defibrillator, but we're going to give you one that doesn't have all the juice in it because we don't want to shock someone with too much energy. It's the same thing. It's a skill and it's a technique.
Most of the defibrillators are adjustable.
I know.
But whether or not they start off the lower one or not, who knows, right?
And the other argument is you can still hyperventilate someone with a pediatric BVM.
They just got to work
takes
harder
a
at
little
it.
bit more work.
It's really exciting.
Yeah. I'm not sure I've seen any studies out or any real science to back it. Since we've got to carry
I believe there was a
adult.
study that said that if you use a pediatric BVM, you're less likely to hyperventilate the patient. That was the conclusion from the study.
Using the same rate that they were with the adult beds. But
It's just a drop in title.
Ride a bicycle on the thruway, you're less likely to speed, right?
yes, ma'am.
Isn't the bottom line chest rise? Do you need to go back and...
Well, it's just rise.
Re-emphasize
It's really it's volume and rate. And we were using the larger volume at a higher rate And we've all seen people just, they're busy, they're pointing to the compressions, they're talking to the driver, and they're just bagging away as fast as they possibly go. And we know that these people are being hyperventilated. And that's with the bag valve mask. We all know that everyone that's intubated has end tidal, and that's being measured. We know that happens 100% across the boards, right? But with the bag valve on there, that's not necessarily the case. So some of these people are coming into BDs or then getting intubated, and they're entitled to almost non-measured, which is blowing off all the carbon dioxide. We thought, I personally thought this was a good fix. When I first heard about it, I said, this is a really good fix. Let's do it. And maybe it's not such a good idea. I'm having second thoughts. Is there anyone here that thinks we should still be thinking about doing this, or
I think we just stick
with the adult bag and appropriate education on how to use the adult
I
bag?
think we should stick with the exact wording of the collaborative protocols,
I agree.
which I don't believe states one way or the other.
I like that idea. What I would really like to do is I would love to set up a station at our EMS conference. In the
We
hallway.
have an airway talk, BLS airway talk on
Not
it.
even at the talk. I'd like to have it out there in the hallway, and I'd like people to just walk up and show us how they use show us their bag valve mask skills, and have someone there to instruct them and improve their skills.
Give them a sticker.
There you go.
I like it. Give him a sticker.
Is that Buddy?
They got a patch. Can I put a patch?
All right, so this has met the end of the line on both sides.
Okay. So the only thing on that particular copy that's subject to change is that Saturday evening class. I'm working with Bryce right now from LifeNet, and they're looking at sponsoring the dinner and performing a couple lectures that evening for us. So that's still up in the air at the moment.
What would you like?
I would like REMAC's approval to go ahead and issue CME credits for the lectures that are being proposed.
Similar motion? Anyone second? Discussion? Everyone's had a chance to at least look at this? Anyone have any suggestions, changes, other? All right. Vote all in favor of the current schedule for CME? Okay, have your approval.
Thank you. So I have two additional items.
Okay.
As the collaborative protocols, the new versions have been rolled out, the app is not maintaining its pace. And because they put in all the BLS protocols along with the ALS collaborative, and now requires a complete app update, which is not expected by the program agencies. Therefore, the Bureau has told us that they have come up with monies to take over the building of the new protocol. However, it now has to go out for a bid process, and we're looking at probably a year down the road before that app is up and running. So the programs are all trying to get together, band whatever additional resources we can scrape together and come up with a fix for this in the short term, because we can probably get through the process significantly quicker. So just remind your providers that the current app does not have the current collaborative protocols on it. Yes.
The collaborative protocol.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's other apps available that list the up-to-date collaborative protocols.
Yeah. So
But they just copy those collaborative protocols.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Right. So the app as it stands now that the state put out is not current. As of right now.
On the collaborative protocols, is this region doing they mentioned a short version versus
No, because unfortunately they changed their opinions on what needed to happen several times. During one of our meetings, they told us that they were not going to develop a rollout, and then every region had to do their own rollouts. So we went ahead and did those. Unfortunate for those folks is they now have to do the state's version of it. And because we can't guarantee that every one of our providers went through the rollouts, we can only offer it one way or the other. And the short version is not going to be applicable because most people haven't done the other one. So everyone's doing the long version. It takes an hour and a half. It's very easily done. I'll be happy to send out the instructions again if anybody needs them. But you need to have that done in order to recertify in either the CME program or in an in-class session.
Mike or Jamie, do you know if Monroe County, Monroe Livingston is doing the long version or the short?
They're working on their own.
I know Jeremy, yeah, Dr. Cushman put out a collaborative rollout. So I believe
those
they
that
are doing short.
Those that are dual are going to have to do.
They'll have to do it both ways.
So if I do the MLREMS one, it won't be accepted?
Correct.
You got to do ours.
Got it, yep. I do both, and vice versa.
It's not really ours, it's the state.
Right.
On the topic of protocol rollouts, for those who did not attend the in-person rollouts, as far as the ALS updates on the collaborative goes, I'd like to pose the other opportunity for that. We did speak at that meeting about some different resources out there within the next 2 weeks. The ALS phone line can have a charge the changes to the collaborative protocol for AMT That's one resource that I'm not seeing any others come out for training resources from the collaborative group yet. Is the chief one discussed at the collaborative meeting following CMAC last Tuesday.
Yeah. So the ALS collaboratives only had very few changes in it. They took out the double sequential shocks and just a couple other verbiage changes. There's not a great deal of changes. I know Central.
Total standing order.
Yeah.
Total standing order.
Right.
Yeah,
There's aspirin.
No Tylenol for any child under 2 months of age, and no ibuprofen for any child under 6 months of age. I think that was pretty much it.
Right. If you're carrying those drugs.
No ibuprofen in pregnancy.
And
Pregnancy. Right.
anything else?
Just a point of information for the group here. Last night, the full council voted and approved to send Fairville's volunteer fire department's application. They're no longer, they used to have an ambulance service that ceased to exist, and now they're dropping down to a BLSFR unit. So the council voted to approve their packet and send it on to the state for approval.
Any idea how many years they ran that ambulance for?
Bill would be able to provide that information. Yeah, so Bill
Was that-
was it about 10 years.
Oh, I had it longer than
The
that.
long ambulance run, it started in about 66 or 65, somewhere along in there.
So 50
No,
some years.
50, yeah, 65, 64, 65.
Long run. All right.
That's it.
John, you
It's all
good?
for me.
Any other new business? Sir?
A couple questions. I don't know how to best proceed with it, but I'm looking into it and looking for some guidance. In Wayne County, it's not uncommon for us to have extended police and civilian deployments looking for kids or the longest one lasted for about 2 weeks, where they were trying to find that baby that we presumably murdered. And obviously a very emotional time. There's a lot of poison ivy, there's a lot of ticks in Wayne County, and one of the biggest problems that we had is that people were getting contaminated with poison ivy. They were getting poison ivy dermatitis, and it would essentially take them out of the surge for a day, because they either go to urgent care or the primary care office or the emergency room. They'd be evaluated, they'd get dosed with steroids and sent on their way back into the surge again. And also, he made a habit of pulling off ticks of people that have been going through the underbrush for days, and the thought of giving a single dose of doxycycline would mean that person would have to take essentially a day off the surge to do it. So my question was, when there is a deployment like that, whether it's either police or police and civilians, is there some way that EMS could recognize the condition and provide the initial dose of the medication? Steroids they already use, but it's Decadron, which can be given PO. The IV form can be given PO, but I didn't know it's a somewhat unique but not uncommon problem in our county, and it seems like a really quick fix.
So EMS has been used for vaccinations and treatments, but that has to be in a state of emergency, I think, called by the governor. I don't think anyone at the county or regional level would be able to do so.
That may not be useful to maybe have the ALS committee discuss a wilderness EMS protocol similar to special protocols recently approved by CMAC and New York City specialty teams. Bring that forward to this body and take it forward to the state and
I would actually make an argument that this is a really easy way to nibble at the community paramedic stuff that's out there, because it's a very unique situation. It could easily be supported by a medical director directly online, potentially with cell phone and video coverage, and it could help the community in a time of need. And
Has to be a protocol to go through that process.
it'd be protocol. Yeah, I just didn't. But I think that the other thing it would do is it would keep non-acute patients out of the emergency room. When you've got 20 police officers beating down banks of poison ivy, you're going to get 20 police officers in your ER 20 minutes later.
So something along the lines of like the HAZTAC or HAZMAT medic, the wilderness medic, whatever you want to call it.
We call it a community support program.
Something, yeah, that would cover all those bases to come up with a set of procedures like tick removal, cleansing of poison ivy contact, a list of procedures and a list of drugs on that formulary. That could be brought to the state very easily. Would any of that have to go before an IRB?
I don't believe so. If you're using stuff that's in our formulary currently,
The obvious one would be for poison ivy dermatitis, because they already are trained in the use of steroids, so it's not they use it for allergic reaction. So
that would.
He was already approved as well.
Well, if you guys want to start working on it, bring it back to the new one.
I would develop it as a protocol proposition, because it's not going to be unique to Wayne County. When you bring this up, there's a lot of places like Wayne County all over the state where those types of things happen. So you might even be able to convince the collaborative guys to add that as an ancillary protocol.
I think you're bringing that up as excellent. I think the concept of bringing it to advanced protocol and let them move on and bring it back to us. Probably. What's that? He's excellent.
And then the only other thing, I always like to highlight what some of my agencies are doing. In 2017, Wayne County ALS did their 3,000th call on December 31st of 2017. So on September 23rd of this year, we did our 3,000th call. So literally 1 year later, we're now hitting 3,000 in September. So it gives you an idea of the volume expansion that we've seen with the county flight car level. Obviously, the service has expanded to accommodate that volume, but I think it's a testimony to all the medics that are busting their balls for 8, 12, and 16-hour shifts running all over the county.
And getting their charts closed for the most part of the time.
For the most part.
The other thing that I would highlight about Wayne County is that we've changed the dispatch protocols in 911 so that the closest available appropriate unit is dispatched, and they will dispatch a unit that's in service but not necessarily next up on the call ladder. So we're not going to dispatch an ambulance that's not in service because it's next up on the call list. If we know there's another ambulance available, we send it from further away and allow the closer agency to try and find a crew. But we're starting to move to instead of moving to whatever the agency tells us to send next and wait, we've changed the process so the closest, most appropriate available ambulance is dispatched.
Very good.
It's a work in progress.
And it's a work in progress.
That's
There's
okay.
teething problems,
But it's
the
progress.
concept is good.
So, if I can bring up a little discussion while I've got this group, because I've got most of the counties covered. 911 call for what appears to be a non-suicidal, an accidental ingestion. Is everyone immediately being dispatched? Is an ambulance being dispatched in all counties currently, or are some of those calls going to poison control? Do you know about Wayne County?
That's part of the
dispatch.
Omega 911 system, if someone calls asking for the number for poison control, then they're provided with the contact information. But if they present the patient with an overdose, we don't have an Omega system that doesn't dispatch it.
Any thoughts about that?
I mean, the EMD program has a number of protocols that do not dispatch ambulances for a number of reasons, and will re-triage the calls to alternatives. Just something we haven't done. I mean, it's probably a consideration.
Ontario County?
Steve, exactly what they're doing, but I do know some calls are directed away.
Do you know what's currently been done? Because Seneca County is one that approached me about it. They're very
They may
interested.
be looking at changing something, but as far as I know, from what I've been told, they don't have anything like that in place. That doesn't mean they're not working on developing.
Right. Can we hear from you?
I mean, the real one is when we have a flu outbreak. And we've been pretty, even though the flu's been bad over the last few years, we've not had one of the crazy threatened outbreaks, but it'll come eventually. And there is an EMD dispatch protocol that evaluates flu-like symptoms and doesn't dispatch ambulances and redirects them. That can be initiated as an add-on from the 911 center, but all it's going to take is everyone's feeling crappy from the flu, and our ambulance system will be completely overwhelmed.
So it's something worth discussing.
It's a case of you have the ability, you can jump in the water, but I don't think anyone wants to jump first. Sure, I'm curious. We'll help you in though if you want.
Very interesting. All right, folks. Any other new business for this group? Hospitals? Anything new and exciting from the hospital?
Our ICU is going well at schedule, so
How many beds will it be?
well, we as well as meeting with the homeowners that attached, so the towers, and all that stuff.
Good question. I'm not sure. Does that need to be reported?
REMAC is the body of, is the body that approves the NRB. I believe it's part of the
Ross, was that part of the MRB protocol that it was reported back to REMAC? I can't remember.
Sorry.
Or the MRB, Medical Review Board. It was a separate entity.
Yeah, that's under a separate entity, under a separate
Not reported
policy.
back to.
Right.
It was a regional. Not reported back to. Not reported back to.
I think it is.
Well, I'm relying on my state resource here.
Yeah, it's not, in the policy that described it, it has nothing to do with the
Jim, you've got it in front of you.
It can only be, any recommendation can only be enacted by the REMAC. Recommendation of the MRB.
Oh, yes.
Since we've never had one before. John, do you have that letter in front of you?
I do not.
Andy, do you have your letter with you?
The part of it, it states, as the MRB is a committee of the REMAC, after hearing the appeal, the MRB must make a recommendation to the REMAC, which in turn shall make a determination of the appeal. The MRB may recommend it to result from that.
And do you have the recommendations that we made? Because I don't have them in front of me.
I have that also. Right here, John.
So we convened the medical review board at the request of a paramedic from Wayne County.
Jack, should people leave?
No, it comes to the REMAC, so. Yeah, because it's a QA-related thing, probably non-members of the REMAC should be excused.
So it's going to be only voting members of the REMAC.
Well, you have voting members and you have non-voting members of the REMAC.
So anyone who sits on the REMAC
can stay.
All right, folks. So at this point, since there's nothing further after this, I would say that anyone who is a seated member of the REMAC, physicians and the non-physician members, if you could please stay behind so we can discuss the results of the medical review board. The remainder of the folks, thank you very much for attending, and there's really no need for you to stay.